Okay, good morning all, and today we'll be continuing the discussion that we left in the last class. So to remind ourselves, we have seen in the last two classes of this week a model of computing. Then we have talked about variables and the way we name variables, the memory that is allocated to them. In the two classes that we have today and tomorrow, our goal is going to be about talking about operators in C. These are very intuitive operators. Most of you will be aware of these things, but we'll point out some of the subtleties of these operators. And then we will go to the interesting part of any programming, this thing, which is modifying flow control. The first thing that we will do is a selection statement today. Okay, so as I have said, what we have seen in the last two classes is about data types, variables, the size of operator, and using that how you can estimate the range of different data types. And this is something that you will also get to work with in the lab today. You have also seen the input and the output statements, that is the scanf and the printf, and you have seen the differences between them. That is, scanf requires the address of the variable, whereas printf you will pass just the variable to it. And we have exercised that. We'll be exercising more on using these functions, that is scanf and printf, in today's class and also in the labs that we go further. Okay, any questions on anything that you want to ask from the previous classes? Okay, so let's get to our first exercise of today. That is, we are going to use this scanf and printf to do something slightly more than taking the variables and printing them or printing them in a formatted way. So that this is our goal. We are going to take two input integers called x and y from the user. So you prompt the user to take to input x and y, and you want to exchange the values in x and y. That is, this is called the swap or swap, the swap function, but we are not going to write a function. We are going to write all of it in the main program. So we are going to write a program which will swap the two integers, right? Okay, so please don't start typing the answers. We will do that. But okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the template of the program that we need to write, and all of you should write down the part of the code that has to be written to swap the two integers. Note that you cannot write a code which is saying that scanf and x, scanf and y, and then say printf y and printf x. That is not doing the swap. It is just printing it out in the different order. That is not swapping it, right? So you want to fill in the code. That is why I have written, when you printf x is equal to, you should print x as the variable, not y, and similarly for y. So this is what is our goal. Your goal is here to print, fill in the code here where it is written, and all of you should do that. What I'm going to test in this class is to try out this poll feature, and I hope that we will be able to take the poll. I already see people who are writing the answer in the chat. Please hold on. So yeah, so and Kaushal, please tell me if you see the poll. So the poll is simply type the swap code. So you don't have to write the whole program. Whatever you are asked to fill in, just write that. Whatever people are writing in the chat, right? Okay. So okay, so Kaushal, can you see the poll?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's
Okay.
showing type the swap code.
Okay, fine. And there is a place to enter this thing, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, ma'am.
How do I press?
That's no.
We are not able to enter anything.
Yeah, we're not able to enter this.
Okay. So But it says there are some people who have finished and so on. So what have people who have finished done?
Ma'am, I think
They just
they've
submitted it.
submit button. Yeah.
So you were able to type something, is that right?
No, ma'am. Just click the submit button.
But without typing anything.
Yes, there is no place to type in.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I think I'll have to check it out. Okay, never mind. I think I'll have to experiment with this poll, this thing, which is a very useful feature, but okay, I don't know. I have not set it up correctly. Never mind. I'll look at your chat answers, and I think many of you would have gotten it right. Okay, so okay, so maybe Kaushal, we will experiment with this poll option offline. Okay, so there are multiple ways to do this, and many of you have already started writing the answers, which is good. So I'm just going to write one way of doing this here. I'm not going to type this code on REPL. This is a very simple code. So okay, again, Kaushal, if you don't see whatever I'm writing, please tell me. Okay, so one of the ways to do this is to define another variable int okay, so I'm again going to write it int t, let's say, and then say t is equal to x, x is equal to y. Please excuse my writing because I am not very good at this annotate tool. Okay, and then y is equal to t, right? So this is how you can complete the code, and many of you have already written it. So there's nothing very difficult about it. It just says that you store this x in a temporary variable, which is t, then take whatever is there in y, assign it to x, and then finally take y and assign whatever is there in t to it, right? So this code is something which is very simple. What do I want to illustrate or say using this? So there are other ways to do it. You can avoid using the temporary variable here that I have used and do it without the temporary variable. If some of you have not thought about not using the temporary variable, think about how you can do it. It can be just done by using the basic arithmetic operators. So this is one thing that I want to illustrate. The second part that I want to talk about is mention that in a C program, you can define variables after you have written some statements like printf and scanf, like we have done here. This is again typical of other program. I mean, this is also true in other programming languages, so nothing new about this. But this int t that we have defined is going or declared this variable. This is going to be available to the this is available only after this line because we have defined it here, right? So this variable is available from this part of the code till all of this. This is the scope of this variable. So we'll come to scope and so on more formally, but in the first part of this program, t is not available. T is available after you have defined it. This is something that you need to keep in mind. Okay. Any questions on this part? Okay. So we'll now ask a few things about this code. Okay, can I use this same program to swap two characters? So if I, instead of asking you to swap two integers, I would have asked you to swap two characters. Is it possible? What are the changes required to the program?
Ma'am,
Yes.
we can include string.h header file and use strcpy.
Okay, let's not jump too much. We have not asked for doing string dot, we have not asked to exchange strings. We have asked only to exchange characters. So character is a single character. For example, the user inputs A in X and B in Y, then we can use characters. I mean, we want to exchange them, not strings.
We can change the data type of X and Y and temporary variable to CAR.
Okay. Okay, good.
And
So that would be
also instead of the
also instead of
%d, we have to write the %c for character.
good. So one of the ways that one of you has suggested is change
Ma'am.
everything.
Ma'am,
Yeah, just let me finish. Yeah, let me finish. Everything can be replaced. Whatever is written as int can be replaced to char, and you can change this. When I say everything that is written for int, you should also change it in the printf and the scanfs, where you have set %d and %d in scanfs as well as %d in printf. You have to change it to %c. So this, if you change it to char everywhere, then this program will work to swap characters instead of integers. Yeah. So somebody had a question.
ma'am, actually, I asked the question. Ma'am, for swapping two characters, can we convert them to the ASCII form and add them without using a temporary character and use the previous idea for swapping them? Ma'am?
Okay. So yes, for characters, you will be able to do that. Okay, so you are saying that instead of using the temporary, can you do the addition arithmetic and
Yes,
delete,
ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am. Instead of char, we can convert it to the int of char. If we give it to print the ASCII value, no, ma'am. If we use the previous,
Yes.
can we?
Yes, you are right that you can you should be able to do that. Are there any corner cases? Is something that we need to worry about. I will we will have to try it out and make sure that there are no corner cases. You can do that, but at the moment I'm just saying that the temporary variable form that I had written it out here earlier in the annotation, that will go through. Yes, so there it is possible. Uh, there may be some corner cases. I'll have to think about it. Yes. Okay. So so when I'm saying that will this code can this program be used for this thing, I'm referring to the program where I have whatever I had filled in, where there is a temporary variable t defined for the same data type that x and y are, and then you are using that temporary data type. So that is the form that I am referring to right now. Okay, so in fact, this program can be used to swap two variables of the same basic data type. That the basic data types in C are int, char, short int, long int, unsigned int, and so on, as well as floats, doubles, and so on. However, we won't be able to do this for something like strings at the moment, because strings are not basic data types. They are stored as character arrays, and we are going to come to storing strings or representing strings soon in a while, but not at the moment. So you cannot do this same thing for strings the way we have done it like this. We have to be careful, and we'll have to use arrays to represent strings in C. Okay, so these are the points that I wanted to make about this simple swap code. Okay, anything that anybody has or as a question or anything? Okay. Okay, so let's move on and talk about basic operators. We have seen basic data types. Yes.
Can you please go to the previous slide for this once, ma'am?
Sorry, I can't hear
No,
you.
ma'am. Can you please go to the previous slide once, ma'am? Previous slide.
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so the slide will also be made available, but never mind. Yeah. Okay, so we have seen basic data types in C. The basic operators are something that you must have already used, but again, to make the story complete, arithmetic operators are plus, minus, star, and division. There's also this useful operator, which is the mod operator, which gives the remainder when, so if you have it, if you write x mod y, it gives the remainder when x is divided by y. This also is something that is very intuitive. The assignment operator, we use it without even, thinking about it. We have already used it. There is also something what you must be familiar, that is the precedence and associativity of these operators. So again, it is always possible to write cryptic code like whatever I have shown in this last bullet, which is this z is equal to and this big expression, and then let the reader of your program interpret how it is done, and also claim that you have written it according to the precedence and the associativity of the operators. But we are not going to rely on that again. Whatever we want to communicate to our program, we will communicate it very clearly. If we want to write this expression, actually means b star c, because star is the one which is having the highest precedence here. So b star c is going to be calculated first, and between the two stars there is left to right, which is going to be the evaluation order. So b star c followed by star d. Then there is this mod operator, and so you see the brackets which are put in, which will allow you to say how this whole expression is going to be evaluated. But the key point here is there is precedence and associativity of the operators, which we use when we which is applied if we leave it to the program. Like if you write this z is equal to this long expression, there's no error and it will mean this, but it is best not to write these cryptic expressions and leave it to the reader to find out what is happening. So if ever you have to read the code and you have to parse it, you should know the precedence. You can look up the table for the precedence and associativity of the operators. But when we write code ourselves, we will write it so that it is easily understandable. Okay, so okay, there are also these two helpful operators, which are increment and decrement, which are prefix and postfix only to a variable, right? So an example of these increment and decrement operators is as follows. So what does the increment operator do? The increment operator will increment or decrement depending on what you are using. When you are using it in the prefix form, it's like what has been done in this line, y is equal to plus plus n in this code. It means that first plus plus n is going to be evaluated, the value of n is going to change, and then that is going to be assigned to y. On the other hand, when you are saying x is equal to n plus plus, it says that the value of n is going to be assigned to x first, and then plus plus is going to be done. So the value of x is going to be exactly what was n, what was the initialization of n in this program. So just as a check, write down the values of what you expect x, y, and n to be at the end of the program. What will this print out? Okay, so the first thing is that the number of values printed is going to be 3. So if you just write one answer, then it is an incorrect answer. You have to write 3 answers which are going to be printed out.
Just a quick doubt. The
Yes.
plus plus increment operator is also available in C. Is it, ma'am? I thought it is exclusively for C++ only.
No. So, okay, so whatever I am teaching now is only C. So it is the C operators that we are talking about. It is not about C++. It is available in C++ also, but it is available in C as well.
I think you're on mute.
Oh, is it? Okay. So no, at least, hello, can you hear me?
It was
Yes,
turned
ma'am.
on. Yes, it was fine.
Okay, so somebody had asked me, is the increment and are the increment and decrement operators available in C? Yes. So whatever we are talking about in terms of syntax, the operators, the keywords, everything is about the C language now and not about C++. So it is indeed an operator which is available in C. Okay. Okay, so many of you have written the answers as there are several answers. Many of them are correct, but there are some of you who have written some answers which are different. I would just like to explain the execution of the program. So n is initialized to 10. When you do x is equal to, okay, so let me just try to annotate again. Yeah, so when we execute this statement, which is x is equal to n plus plus, it says whatever is in the variable n, assign it to x, and then also increment the variable n. So after this statement is executed, x is equal to, yeah, x. Yeah, so x is equal to 10 and n has become 11. So this is the state at this point of the program. After you have executed this line, y is equal to plus plus n, first plus plus n is going to get executed, then n is going to get incremented to 12, y is going to get assigned that value. So y will contain the value which is equal to 12 and n will also be modified to 12. So at the end of this program, you are going to have the values 10, 10, 12 and 12 respectively printed out. So many of you have given this correct answer. There are some of you who thought that it will be 11 at some point. It will be 11 at some point, but when it gets printed out, it is going to be 12. Okay. Any questions or comments here?
I didn't understand how y value changed after that. After execution of y is equal to plus plus n.
Okay, so okay, so let's say it was just y is equal to n. Do you understand that y is equal to n
Yes,
is going to change the value,
yes,
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so y is equal to n is clear to you. So y is equal to plus plus n is telling that you first execute plus plus n. Right, so
Okay.
whatever is going to be in n is going to first get incremented. It is a pre-increment, right? So before you get, I mean, so the whole thing is that, okay, so the assignment operator is behaving in the following way here. It is going to evaluate this whole thing, which is plus plus n. So think of it that this statement can be written into, this y is equal to plus plus n can be written into two parts, which is saying n is equal to n plus 1. This is the first statement, and then y is equal to n, right? So this is what is the meaning of this y is equal to plus plus n. It is just a shorthand for writing these two statements. So it says that execute n plus plus n, which will change the value of n, and then y is assigned that value.
Okay, ma'am.
Is that fine?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, good. Yeah, so just to make a few points about this increment and decrement operators, you have this increment and decrement operators which are available for variables only, and typically their usage is, not restricted, but it is typical to do it for modifying loop indices. So it's best to use them for the goal that they have been designed. Instead of saying x is equal to x plus 1, it is a shorthand for x plus plus. So it's good to use it for the place where it is designed for. You can try doing this in your lab, x plus y plus plus, and see what it gives you out. It will be a compile time error, but you should try doing this for a character. So for example, instead of int n, I had a char n, and that character is given a value. Let's say it is character char c is equal to little a, that is in single quotes, I have initialized it to a. You do plus plus c or c plus plus, whatever, and then you try to print the value. What would you get? Again, do not type out the answers. I am sure many of you would know it, but if you haven't tried it out, you should try it out for a character and see what happens. Okay, so this is all I wanted to say about the increment and decrement operators. Anything that is unclear or any question? Okay. Good. So we come back to this assignment operator, make some remarks about them. So we have said this earlier as well. Although this assignment operator has this equal to sign, which we can mistake it or can think about it as an equality, which it is, but there is a left and right hand side of the equality. So saying that z is equal to x plus y is a correct form, but x plus y is equal to z is not a correct form. It is a compile time error. So you cannot write this statement. Then if you have, let's say, an int data type, let's say int x, and you have a float f1, and if you assign x is equal to f1, there will be an automatic type conversion or type casting that happens. So if the float value was 20.73, then only the integer part of that will be assigned, and x will contain only the integer part of it. So you will have only 20. On the other hand, if you had an integer, let's say x, and if you assign it to a float, then you will, if you print it out, you will see that you will have the decimal points, and after that everything will be 0. So this automatic typecasting will happen whenever it is possible, when you do assignment between different data types. Okay, so one important point about the assignment operator is that multiple assignments are possible in a single statement, like I have shown here. X is equal to y is equal to z is equal to a plus b. And these evaluations happen from right to left. What does this mean? A plus b is evaluated first. It is assigned to z. Then it is assigned to y, and then the last thing is the assignment to x, right? So why is this important for us to know? Again, sometimes people write code which relies on this fact, which is again not a great idea to do, but in case you happen to read such code, you should be aware of the evaluation of this assignment operator. So if there are function calls, or if there are some evaluations or expressions which have side effects, for example, there is n plus plus or plus plus n, then you should be aware of how this evaluation is happening. For example, if there is x is equal to y is equal to z is equal to plus plus n, the plus plus n is going to happen first, and then all of it is going to get evaluated. So you have to be again careful about this multiple assignment statements multiple assignment operators used in a single statement. It is useful at certain points when you want to say x is equal to y is equal to 10, but used in a cryptic form again can lead to something which becomes unreadable code. So if you find your code which is misbehaving and you have these multiple assignments used in a single statement, you may want to look for if there are certain statements which have side effects and so on. So this is something that you have to be careful about. And this can cause issues if you have functions which are modifying certain variables. When we come to functions, we will again point these things out, but these are some things that you should not use it as a design thing, but you should be aware of these things.
Ma'am?
Okay. Yes.
Ma'am, in this example which you told now, like y is being assigned the value of z or a plus b, ma'am?
Okay, so so the assignment operator itself returns a value. which is the value that is assigned. So the first assignment that is happening is equal to Z is equal to A plus B, right? So its value is A plus, whatever is the value of A plus B.
Ma'am, like if A and B are in float, like they have decimal values, but Z is an integer, like what will happen to Y, ma'am? Will it have the value of Z or will it have the value of A plus B?
Again, so it will have the value of whatever is the return value of this. Okay, so my understanding is, let's just take a concrete example. A, B are floats, Z is an integer, Y is also an integer, or Y is a float in your
Float.
mind, I mean.
Float.
Float. Okay, so okay, so let's take values which are, let's say this evaluates to some 2.3, and Z is an integer, so it will be typecasted, and Z will be assigned a value 2, and at least what I understand is Y should also be assigned a value 2. We can check it out. We can check it out when we go to REPL.
Okay, ma'am.
Right, so at least my understanding is that the Z value should be, I mean, the value of this assignment operator Z is equal to A plus B is whatever has been assigned to Z, and that is why it should be 2, and that should be assigned to Y, so it should be 2.000 rather than 2.3. But we can try it out, and if there is a difference, I'll check if there is a difference, if there is some gap in the understanding. Yeah. Okay, good question. So I will remind me of doing this when we go to REPL. Okay, any other question? Okay, so there's also a short form, like we had x plus plus to increment it by 1. There is also a short form for x is equal to x plus 10, which can be written as x plus is equal to 10. And again, this just simply means x is equal to x plus 10. So it is only a short form for writing this. And instead of plus, you can have other operators also, like the minus, star, div, mod, and so on. And they exactly mean what it would mean to say that x is equal to x star 10. Instead of that, you can say x star is equal to 10, which means x is equal to x star 10. So this is something that you may have used if you have already seen this short form of writing x plus 10. Okay, so now is where we are going to do two small tasks which are doing this. The first task is to determine the parity. Yes. Hello. Sorry, so somebody has a question. I'll just look at the chat if anybody has written any question. Okay. Okay, so what is this? Okay, so is somebody asking any question about the previous part? If I have missed, there are other questions, but they seem slightly out of context. So I'll answer them possibly towards the end. Okay, so I'll assume, I thought somebody was speaking, so I thought I'll take a pause. So this determine the parity of a given integer. So it's simply asking you the following, that is given an integer, determine whether it is odd or even. And output a certain value if it is even, so output certain value if it is odd. I'm not going to do this in class right now. You are going to be asked to do this in the lab today. But we'll move to the second task, which is a very simple task of determining the minimum of 3 integers that we are given. Okay, so something which is a very simple basic task. And for this, we are going to introduce the first control modification statement, which is this if statement or the if construct. And this is also called as single selection as opposed to double selection, which is if else, which also you are familiar with. But let's understand the syntax and the semantics of this if statement. So the if statement, the syntax is shown here, that is if test expression, and this will say what this test expression is, and if the test expression evaluates to true, you are going to execute the set of statements which we will call the body of the if. If the test expression evaluates to false, like whatever is shown in this flow diagram, the control will directly go to statements which just follow the if statement, right? So this is how the if statement behaves. It's a very simple statement. Since all of you have seen it, there is nothing very fancy about it, but we'll see a small example usage of it, and I'll also point out a few things about the logical and the relational operators that typically these test expressions use. So these test expressions are going to use these relational operators, which are less than, equal to, greater than or equal to. Similarly, equal to, and not equal to. What do these relational operators return? They return 0 if the expression is false. They return 1 if it evaluates to true. For example, if it is a less than b, and if you give a is equal to -2, b is equal to 10, it is going to evaluate to true, and therefore it will return 1. And what if it is an if statement, then you are going to execute whatever is the body of the loop. Similarly, this a is equal to 10 will evaluate to 1 only when a is equal to 10. Now, I'm assuming all of these are integer data types for the moment. When we come to floating point values, you will see what happens if you say a is equal to 10.2, and how do you evaluate that? Because we have already seen that there can be some errors in the representation of floating point numbers. But at the moment, assume that these are integer data types. And then there are also these logical operators, which are ampersand, which is the logical and, the 2 bars, which is the logical or, and the not, which will negate the expression. So if the expression returns true, then not of that will be 1, sorry, if it returns true, then not of that will be false, and vice versa. So again, these are some things that are familiar to you. So let's go back to our task of determining the min of 3 integers, and I'm going to spend a little time on this very simple task, but bring out what it means by designing a small program and thinking about it before starting to code. And this task is going to be useful to all of you when you do the problems in our lab, which is the next lab. Okay, so so one question, Kaushal, is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Somebody has written that the screen is not visible. Okay, so yeah, so there are these 3 integers that we are given. We want to compute the min of the 3 integers. A very simple task. But what we are going to first do for any problem that we are going to solve is first make a plan of the way we are going to solve it. Possibly write down the key steps on a sheet of paper or even in a text editor, and then start coding. Starting to code is immediately something that can lead to simple but subtle errors that can be easily fixed if you had done the design well. So a natural thing to do is to have a variable to store the min. The question that one needs to ask is, what should I initialize the min to? So this is something that we will answer when we write the program, but you can also think about it when we are doing it. And then for each of these 3 numbers, you want to say that if the input, that is the input number, is less than min, then the min gets modified. So this is very simple, but this is the design that we will do for this program. And while I have written this as a for statement, and if you are familiar with the for statement in C or C++, you may use that. But at the moment we are going to avoid loops. We are going to just think that we don't know loops. So we are going to take these three integers and write three different statements, or two, how many ever statements that we want to. They are constant number of statements. So this is about the program design. This is what you should do every time that you are given a task to do. What are the things that I want to, what are the variables that I need? How do I initialize them? How do I modify them? And then you should also think of what constructs do I need from the language to solve this problem. In this case, it's just an illustrative example of the if statement. So it's clear that you are going to use the single selection statement. The next thing that you need to think about when you are writing a program for a certain task is, how will I test my program? Before I do the submission, or before I give my code or my piece of code to somebody as a completed code, I am going to test it. So how will I test this program? So the natural test cases are, you give three distinct numbers. You will test it out on a sample three distinct numbers, maybe three numbers that are all the same, two of them are same, one of them is different, and so on. And very importantly, each one of them is the min, is something that you should test out. For example, your program may be doing when the first input value is min correctly and the last input value is min, but it may not be working out correctly when the middle value is the min, or the second input value is the min. And you should make sure that your testing is done appropriately. Does exhaustive testing mean that you have proved that it is correct? No, you have to prove that your algorithm is correct. That is not going to be something that we are going to be able to do it here in this course. But at the same time, to the extent of programming, we are going to say that we are going to test our programs with a good exhaustive set of test cases. Okay, so now that the few minutes that we have, I ask all of you to write down this simple code. I will assume that scanf, etc. is done. You can also assume that a min variable is defined. How would you write down this code? And if possible, you can also type out your answers in the chat. It's a small piece of code that you have to write down. How would you write down this code? Yeah, again, as I said, do not write int ABC, scanf ABC. I want the core logic like we did for the swap. I'm not showing you the template, but that is what I want you to write. Okay, so I see many answers. One of the good thing about the answers I see is that at least the answers that I am seeing people. Okay, so I see one of the answers using else. Okay, so at the moment we have not introduced the if then else construct. So can you avoid using the if then else? That is one thing. Can you write the simplest possible program? I mean, without using too many operators. That is also one of the things that was not stated earlier, but nevertheless. So I'm going to show. Yeah, so good. So all of you who answered, thanks a lot. and I'll look at these codes offline, but I'm going to present a small piece of code that I have written, which is not using any of the logical operators, but only the relational operator less than and the if construct, which we have introduced, not even the if then else, right? I mean, if else construct. So the program, I mean, the first few parts are simply the initializations, the declarations of the three variables x, y, and z. You may have taken it as ABC, that is okay. There is a min variable that has been declared. And then, of course, there is a scanf to take in the inputs. One of the things that you can do is don't worry about initializing it to some large value, because we don't know what is the large value. So it is best to initialize min to one of the input integers that is given to you. We have initialized it to x, which we think of the first integer that is given to us. And then every element is a candidate for min. So if y is less than min, then we are going to if y happens to be smaller than min, then we are going to change the min. If z happens to be smaller than the current min, then we are again going to change the min, and finally min will have the correct value. Okay, so this is a very, very simple program. Any questions on this part? Okay, so people are still typing out the code in the chat. Okay.
Ma'am, I mean, C++, if we had just one statement under if, we would not need to use the brackets. Here, does that apply?
So it is the same in C and C++. Here also the brackets are not required. The brackets are advisable for us to see what is the body of the if. It is not that the brackets are required. The program is the same if you remove these braces which are here, which after y is less than min in both the cases, but I have put them just for the sake of clarity that the body of the if just contains one statement. This is true in C and C++. There is no difference. Okay. Any other questions on this program? Okay, so there are several. This is not at all the only way to write it. This is only a very simple way to write it, where we have used minimum number of operators, and we have used only the if construct. We have not even used the if else construct. And as you see, this simple piece of code, or this piece of code will be helpful for us to write the min of a set of integers when we come to loops, and we even in the case of arrays, when we try to find out the minimum of an array, we are going to use a similar piece of code. So it's best to keep our code very simple, readable, and which can also be extended to a large number of integers. So this is something that you have to keep in mind about the designing good programs when you are given some task. So I'll stop here for the for whatever I wanted to say. I'll just remind people who joined in possibly late that today at 2:30 we'll be having a lab. The lab will be an ungraded lab, but it will ask you to do some small tasks which will be very helpful for you in the lab, which is tomorrow, which will be a graded lab. So all of you must attend it. TAs will record attendance and will note down how many tasks that were given to you or have been completed by you. So the lab will be at 2:30. We'll meet again at the same class link, and then in 15 or 20 minutes you'll fork out to your individual groups. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and I'll wait here if there are questions about anything.